That's one whole category of concentration with many different levels, okay? But the other category that's crucial is what other kind of concentration do we need to develop in a real spiritual practice to truly show results, which 99.9% of spiritual paths I've seen in the world today don't teach publicly. They keep it only for the special masters, or they don't even know about it anymore. What is it? It's a simple thing to us because we use it as a common technique all the time, but for other schools it's like, ah, what? Second attention. Second attention is absolutely crucial and was a part of every spiritual tradition at one time. My research into different spiritual traditions like, Zen or Taoism or Buddhism or Tantric Buddhism, which came from Tantric Shaivism, or all these all had this idea of second attention, but slowly it got lost. And what happened is we became meditators who meditate, and then we go through our lives kind of daft, fumbling and having discursive mind and energy. We're supposed to integrate the two somehow, but how do we do it? So it's very difficult. They all had this technique we call second attention. So we're keeping this alive, and hopefully other schools will learn this and start to bring it into their teachings again, because it makes what they do very effective. The second attention is being aware of something other than your primary activity in an unbroken fashion. If my primary activity is teaching right now, my second attention could be on my lower belly and how in between sentences I breathe into my lower belly, and then how I hold a little tension there as I talk the whole time, and my tension is my next attention in my belly until eventually it's 50% empty and I breathe in again. So I'm always holding some tension in there, always holding the belly with some strength and some energy in there while I'm teaching. That could be my second attention. It could be second attention or tertiary attention on the flow of transmission from the masters when I teach, right? But that's kind of subtle. That might be too subtle to do right away to gain mind power. I could fool myself and think I'm having these high experiences, which really is like what we call the God realm. I'm having a God realm delusion, that I'm really connected and I'm having this great experience, and I'm developing. So it's better to have it grounded in your physicality for a very long time. You're walking. Walking is very common second attention, to feel your feet walking in the Mother Earth like that, to combine it with the breath, combine it with your posture. These are the big ones. Position or walking. So sitting, I'm aware of my posture. Yogins are always aware of their posture. They're always aware of their breath, right? Posture, breath. So sometimes posture takes the place of walking, or walking takes the place of posture when you're walking. So you can feel you're walking, but you can also stand upright. And your breath. So if you have those second attentions held all the time, no matter what comes up for you in your normal day of working with your kids, or maybe you're in school taking courses, or maybe you're working yourself, you can always remain aware and integrating concentration with daily activity till it gets to the point where it's effortless. It's consciously competent, but it feels effortless, right? We're talking about becoming consciously competent so we don't fall into trance. So the greatest gift concentration gives us is a harnessing of all of our energies in one area, down into one point. When a human being harnesses all their energy of body, speech, and mind, the great capacity of the brain with the mind and the energy, wow, we're unbelievable. We're amazing. We're just usually so scattered that we live lives of mediocrity. But those great beings that we can refer to as Mahasiddhas, or even great scientists and philosophers and so on, they were able to put it all together. Now, normally our mind is so scattered and into fantasy so much that we're not being concentrated in our daily activity. We're said to be discursive, we're lost, Our mind is going all over, our energy is going all over. Second attention cuts that trance. So the latest research I saw says that the average human being has 70,000 thoughts per day. 70,000, how many seconds are there in a day? If I do quick math, 60 in a minute, 60 times 60 in a, How we got?
3,600 an hour
times 24. 3,600 times 24, what's that number? Is it big? No one knows. It's huge. So 70,000 thoughts. We're probably having them every second or two, 3 or 4 seconds. So with that amount of thought content going, what happens for us is, it's not like there's huge spaces in between either. We're lucky if we get 1 or 2 spaces all day. Basically, it's one thought. It abides for a while, and then we are, in meditation schools, they say the thought arises, abides for a while, and fades away. Actually, what really happens is a thought is blasted into being, and another one blasts and takes over. And this is usually what happens for people with discursive mind all day long. We're like jumping and grasping after one thing to the next. It invades us, or we desire it and go after a thought. And it's one after another after another. There's very little space. That's why we like to space out so much. That's why we like to do drugs. We like to go to sleep. We're trying to get a break from our incessant thought process, right? Chitta vritti nirodha. So even Patanjali was onto this. If we could just stop our mind, we'd have some yoga. That's what he's saying. Oy vey. So it's an onslaught. It's constant. It's an onslaught. Second attention is a way to, yes, you have a thought. You have a thought of your breath or your posture or your gait. But focusing it into one and relaxing with that creates a background kind of hum where your small mind is beginning to relax into that mantraha, chittam mantraha. The small mind is beginning to become part of that energy basis of the big mind, the enlightened mind, right? That's what second attention does for us. So that when we use our seated practice in the morning, at night, or if you do more sessions a day, good for you, it has some benefit. Because we know as human beings, we are conditioning ourselves all the time. This is one of the most important things about mind powers, especially in the concentration level. We're conditioning ourselves. So if we're conditioning ourselves towards scattered thinking all day long, discursive thinking, that's what we're going to become. But if we condition ourselves in our spiritual practices towards some kind of compassion or something, which is great, wisdom or compassion for 1 hour a day, but 23 hours a day we're conditioning towards discursiveness, it's not going to hold. It's not going to do anything. It won't do anything. Frequency, intensity, and duration. Frequency, intensity, and duration. If you want results in spiritual life, you must practice frequently. One a day ain't going to make it. I sound like a Nazi here, but this is life. I'm going to tell you the truth, right? They don't pay me to give you lies. Well, you don't pay me anyway. But anyway, one a day is just going to, give you a little bit of an edge up, a leg up on the competition, but it ain't going to do much. Even if it's short. So here's the other part, duration. 1 or 2 hour sessions for a beginner is insane. In our school, we never teach people to do 1 or 2 hour sessions in one topic. Maybe you do the whole Shakti Shaiva Dharma Foundation practice. That's different because you're moving from one beautiful visual to another, to a sounding, to an internal organ, channel exercise. That keeps you, interested and happy. That's good. But frequency, if we do 2 or 3 or 4 sessions a day, duration, if we can get that duration down, maybe 10 to 15, 20 minutes is good. What if I did 4 sessions a day at 15 minutes? It's an hour, right? I make a solemn promise and a guarantee, money back guarantee. Give you free turkey if you try. If you practice 4 times a day with equal intervals between, close to equal intervals between, for 15 minutes, whatever practice you do, you are going to get probably 400 to 500% more result, without a doubt, maybe even higher. It's this principle, frequency, intensity, and duration. We have to do it more frequently because we fall off every hour or two. We're back to being, a shmendrik. So we want to really basically, do you know Yiddish? No? We fall back to being unconscious, ignorant, acting out of body, speech, and mind in ways that aren't so nice. So let's say I'm trying to hold compassion. If I do 4 compassion meditations during the day for 15 minutes, I'm easily going to hold more sense of being compassionate in my body, speech, and mind than if I do a 2-hour morning bliss out session on compassion, get in the car and have road rage on the way to work. See, it's out the window, it's gone already. So we want to have some kind of continuity. Second attention gives this, the continuity. Frequency of the practice keeps you in touch with the root. So as I said last time, the Chittam Mantraha, how do we get to Chittam Mantraha? How do we get the mind to be that energy source? We have to make the mind dip back into source many times during the day. Dip into it. And the second chapter says this is the greatest effort a yogini can apply. She must dip her mind back into source over and over again. And she must apply effort to it too. Right? Pratnaha sadakaha, right? We must apply this effort over and over again, dipping back into source, okay? Now with second attention, we don't get distracted. We can always kind of be in touch with source a little bit. Hey, that's kind of cool. That's something new. Like imagine all day being in touch with source to the degree we can through second attention. This is the purpose. Then the skills you acquire during your 4 sessions a day to create the compassion, you only have, say, 4 hours in between each one, and then you sleep. Wow, now my whole day is being bookended in these 4-hour segments by compassion on each side, and I can operate this way. I'm touching into it again. It's only 15 minutes, 10 minutes, something. It's much better than a long session and forgetting it, right? So it's frequency, intensity, and duration. Intensity is the other part. If your mind is really concentrated and focused on the desired goal, because we have desired goals until we're completely one with Shiva, right? Even then we have goals as Shiva, so big goals. So until then, if our mind is focused into these desired goals through the sadhanas, the practices you're doing, you're going to get great result. If you can have a lot of fervent desire for the result, you're going to get the result faster. So in concentration, the very first level we're spending most time on because it's very important. In concentration, we must try to have sessions during the day of concentration. Now I'm calling it concentration, but what is it when I sit for 10 minutes and I feel myself to be connected to all beings in the universe and I see a blue bindu in my heart, the mandala practice, right? And I see a blue bindu in everybody else's heart in the universe all around me on a huge horizontal pizza, you know? Slices of pizza, the 6 realm slices. So I see all the realms, all the beings crammed into all the 6 realms, the demons, the gods, the humans, the animals, the hungry ghosts, you know, all around me. And I see them all there, and I'm in the center of it, and I see that they're all taking their essence from my heart essence, and they all have the same heart essence. And I'm holding this visualization. I'm feeling us all to be one. Everybody's enlightened, everybody's blue bindu, and they're all smiling and happy and released. I feel the waves of ecstasy and bliss coming out from my heart, and compassion, connecting to all beings with a sense of interbeing. And then I swap myself out and put myself in the periphery out in one of the slices of the human realm and put someone else in here like a demon that's enlightened, smiling, happy, and a demon smiling with their fangs. And, you know, and I start to feel this rapport, and then I swap myself back and put them in the audience and put something else in, you follow? Compassion practice can be done for 10 or 15 minutes. What a fantastic result. Then when I come out of that, I try to maintain a connection to my breath and my being while I act in ways of body, speech, and mind that are compassionate. This is very rapid growth, very rapid growth. And this is the technique, as I said before. I'm not meaning to knock the other schools out there, but it's lost in those other schools. And this is a very, very crucial technique which underlies great development. So let's all try this as much as we can. This is concentration. Yeah? So I say concentration, we usually think, oh, I'm looking at something really intensely. No, this compassion meditation is also concentration. Yes, it also gets into a sense of using the powers of your mind to manifest and so on. And also you're sitting with a heart essence bindu, so there's a bit of getting back to essence as well. But it's an active meditation. It's concentrating on the heart bindu of compassion being created and touching all beings and becoming one. It has activity, it has object consciousness. Concentration always has object consciousness. There's always you and an object you're working with. So many schools say, oh, it's so low, it's such a low technique, you know, oh, like we don't want to work with concentration. We want to teach you high Dzogchen, high Anupaya meditation. Just be spontaneous, baby, you know. But this doesn't work unless you have a great foundation. Okay? So this is a bit on concentration. Any question from the floor right now on concentration or from overseas? Any question on concentration? Going once? Are you concentrating? Are you here? You look to be here. Are you here? So concentration is the first mind power we have to gain. Obviously, a week's course could be done, and it might be a good idea for 2015 or 16 to do a whole week's course of concentration. You know, these ADHD kids and adults now, the ones I worked with as children are now adults, but thank God they don't have ADHD anymore. It's a bit of a problematic diagnosis. I think, I've worked with many of them in my 30s in Australia, and I think that it was a wrong diagnosis, 20s and 30s. 99% of the time, there was no organic dysfunction with the child's brain. There was nothing else going on. They had a bad diet and they were bored. They're highly creative, highly energetic children. And when I gave them physical exercises of concentration, yoga was a bit boring because it was too static. Vinyasa hadn't taken off yet, that military exercise form of yoga hadn't gotten popular yet. So they wouldn't sit still for normal Hatha yoga postures and stuff. So I gave them Qigong exercises and Kung Fu exercises. And if they were really young, I just gave them cross crawl and skipping, skipping. Normal things that we're supposed to do in our development that kind of get missed by a lot of modern kids. And every one of these so-called ADHD kids who they wanted to medicate, the parents brought them to me because they didn't want to get medicated, they became normal kids really quickly, like within a matter of days or weeks. They were normal, doing well in school, no problem. They weren't being trained correctly in concentration. There's a neural aspect of concentration. It was never developed in them as children. They never had their body and their mind and energy cohesively conditioned together to produce concentration. So when they got in a classroom, the mind was all by itself running wild. And because it was running wild, the mind runs the energy. The energy was wild. Airplanes, pigtails, like whatever it was, they would just go crazy. And once we started to make cohesion out of the body, speech, and mind, the kids through play. It was all play. I would get on the ground with them and crawl around with them. We would tumble, we would skip, we'd do this thing. If they were a bit older, I'd give them really cool Qigong movements where you look like a bear, you look like a deer, And it would just bring it all together. And we had great results, really great results. Basically, because the culture lacks total body, speech, mind fusion concentration, we get ADHD. Then you want to give you a drug for it. That's a dead end. That's a bad way to go. So concentration is something we shouldn't overlook, okay? It's not just with your mind, your mental mind, your intellectual mind. Concentration is a whole body, energy, mind experience when it's done correctly. Okay, now, the next mind power, and I told you how to acquire that concentration many different ways. I think we get an idea. We'll take some questions at the end if you want to further elaborate on that, because I hope this is practical.